Okay, so I would like to show you how to build an Airbnb-like search experience with Laravel, Algolia, and Vue.js. A little bit about me. I'm Julien Bourdeau. I live here and I work at Algolia. I've been here for 6 months now, and I really come to really like search now. This is what we're going to build, so I will review it quickly. At the top is the search query. Underneath, it's the filters, like the facet filters, the map, and the result that you show just behind it, underneath it. So I will skip the part about Algolia because Maxime already introduced it. Building search is the three-step process. Import your data, configure your relevancy, your all the settings you want to configure the algorithm, and then build your search UX in your front end. So we will start first with the indexing part. I have I shared it on GitHub, but we have an app ready to use with a database seeded with home. It's data scraped from Airbnb and anonymized, and it's all in MySQL. The whole app is ready, and now we'll need to index it into Algolia. So we'll use the same package, Laravel Scout. Since it's driver based, you can plug any search engine into it. So you install Laravel Scout, then you install the Algolia search client for PHP, which is just the wrapper around the API. And then you will need to configure the credentials. For this, you need an account on Algolia, so you can go and create a free account, and you will find a page to get your credentials, app ID, and API token. Yeah, API token. Yes. So this is the default model for Algolia for home. To the extent the model from Laravel and does absolutely nothing. And if you want to synchronize your data between MySQL and Algolia with Laravel Scout, the only thing you need to do is add one thread, the Laravel Scout searchable thread. And when you do this, every time you have update, delete, or save method called, Scout will take care of synchronizing everything. Because we seeded all the database first, and we will need to import everything at the first use, so we'll only do this once. Laravel Scout adds import and flush command to your artisan. So you call it with the model, and it will create an index in Algolia and send everything. Once it's done, you can go to the dashboard. I'll show you. Okay. So I did import the data. This is what it looks like: the name, address, country, and room type. That's what we use for filtering, and then the coordinates. So you can use the search here, the search bar, to try. If we type for Amsterdam, you'll see the result coming up. The search is typo tolerant, so if I do type Amsterdam not correctly, it will find it. And by default, Algolia search in every attribute. So if you look at the first results, it's actually New York, but in Amsterdam Avenue. So now we entering part 2 of the building search, which is customizing relevancy and the how you want to rank your data. So you go to the ranking tab. I hope it's big enough. Maybe not. Okay, it's an ASOT keyboard, so I don't know how to do it. So here you can configure all the options for your ranking formula, and we will focus on the searchable attributes. It means we will only search in the attribute defined in a list, because in general, if I go back to browse, you don't want to look in every field. Like if I look for HTTP, see every single result are coming up because they all have a URL, but you don't want to search in URLs. So I go here and add the address, the city, the country, and the name. And this list is ordered. So the first, if it matches in the first attributes, it's better than if it's in the last one. So I will put the city first. You can drag and drop and save, and it will rebuild the index. Algolia does a lot of work while it's indexing. So like the sorting is done while the data indexing to save time when you query it. And if I try again, if I try HTTP, then it's gone because nothing has HTTP in the fields. And what was this one? Amsterdam. Amsterdam. In this case, it is in the city. It matches first. And if I go down, this result in New York is now last because address is lower in the list. So now we customize the ranking. Where is the? Okay, we're ready to build our search. On a typical website, the search will look like this. Your client will be browsing your website and will call your server with the query. Your server will call Algolia. Algolia will send the answer to your server, and your server will send the answer to the client. That's what we call backend search. And we will recommend you to bypass your server and build front-end search. So you call Algolia directly from your JavaScript. It will save network latency, and it will also offload your server so your application server can focus on something else. If you want to do this, you will need to use JavaScript to call Algolia, handle the errors, handle all the events, like if you click on a filter and you have to call Algolia again. So if you don't want to write all the boilerplate code, so we made instant search library. It exists for JavaScript, and now there is a special version for React, Vue.js. That's the one we're going to use, and also Android and iOS. So instant search is a set of components that you can use to build your search. It will give you like the sort selector, the filters list, the pagination. It will handle all this for you. So you install Vue Instant Search, and that's the default app.js that comes with Laravel. I think okay. And you import Vue.js and you pass it through the use method. The use method, that's the same you use for any plugin to Vue.js. And while you're working in this, don't forget to rebuild your assets every time. So you launch one of those two commands. This is what we have right now with all the boilerplate. I written the style and all the containers and the different HTML elements. Okay. The first thing you need to add is the AIS index. All the components from Instant Search are prefixed AIS for Algolia Instant Search. And some of the components, they will need to query Algolia. So they need to provide the credentials. That would be the app ID that you can find in the configuration. And here, the API key, it's not the same as the one we saw before. In your backend, you will use the admin API key because you need to write data into your indexes. And in the front end, it's search only API key because it will be sent to all your clients. You should never send the admin API key, of course. And then the index name. And every Vue.js component must be nested under AIS index. So we will start by adding the AIS input. That would just make a text field, and it will take care of querying Algolia. If you look at the demo, when you add this, it looks like a simple text field, but it actually query Algolia at every keystroke. Every time you add a letter, we'll query again and send the result. It takes about, see with the network, it takes about 20 milliseconds to query Algolia. And the results are in the response, of course. So we can start displaying the results. It's the AIS results component. It will loop through your results, and you need to provide a template of how you want to display the results. This will be under a template that is scoped for results. In this case, we'll display the name, and right now we're writing in a Blade file. So the double mustache is shared between Blade and JavaScript. So if you want a Blade to ignore it, you had to write this little at before. If we look at it, that would show the result. It's pretty small, I guess. But see, the results are updated instantly every time you add a new letter. Now, by default, Algolia sends 20 items, 20 results, and it sends also the pagination. So we will take care of pagination with the AIS pagination component. And for the whole pagination, I think it's my favorite component. All you have to do is use this, and it will, and then style it. But then it will make the whole pagination easy. You click, and it will refresh the results and take care of everything. Give you the CSS class, everything. Go back. That's why it's my favorite. Then, of course, in a real application, you will define a dedicated component to display your results. And this example, I named it home item. So the first part is displaying images, then different information about the home, the name, room type, and the address. If you look at the props, there is only one, it's home, and we'll pass the whole result to this so we can access anything in the template. You need to add the component to your JavaScript. I replaced the boilerplate from Laravel. And then instead of the result name we had before, we'll use the component and pass to the home property. I will pass the result. And then you're good. You'll use this component for each result. A good practice, if you look at the results here, you don't really know why it's matching because you don't see if there is a word matching or anything. And a good result would be to highlight the string that matches in the name. And Algolia will do it for you before it sends the answer. It will add the HTML everywhere. And you can use the AIS component, AIS highlight component. So it will add it will display the proper, the good property instead of the default name. And then you can see every time it matches, it will be highlighted. Now we can do filtering. Before you do filtering, you need to go to your dashboard. And like I said, Algolia does a lot of the work at indexing time. So you can't do filters on the fly. You have to go and define what you're going to use for a filter. So you go in display, faceting, and you add it. I already did. It's room type, and that's what I used for the faceting. Here. And in this case, you use AIS Refinement List component. You pass it the attribute name that you will find in the result. And it will display the whole list with checkboxes. And every time you take one, it will update the results only that matches in this filter. Now we want to do geolocation because we're looking for places. We want to search by distance and only search for things around you. So first you need to let Algolia know what are the coordinates of each result, and Algolia requires you to store the coordinates in the underscore geolog attribute. So to add this before Scout sends it to Algolia, you can override the method toSearchableArray, and we'll plug into this one, and we'll add the underscore geolog. The format is pretty straightforward, is lat and lng, and you pass it the value. Then I'll show you in the dashboard. All right. There's a button. It adds a new component that is not in your database, but still. Okay, so I would like to display this on a map. To avoid writing all the Google Map code, I will use this component I found. It's a Google Map for Vue.js. And this is basically how it works. You add a Gmap map component and you pass it the center. This should be the coordinates of Paris and a zoom level. Then inside it, we will add, see the Gmap map. Inside it, we will add the Gmap marker, and exactly like before, we will use the AIS results that would loop through each result. And this time, instead of using this home item component, we will use the marker, and it will add it to the map. The good thing is that the library and Algolia share the same convention for the geolocation, so I guess it's pretty standard. And if you add it, you have your map centered in Paris, but no results. Because by default, the results come in a certain order, basically the order you added them to the database. And now we want to let Algolia know that we want the closer result from where we are. And for this, we can add parameters to each queries. So you should go to Algolia documentation to find out all the parameters. There's a lot of parameters you can find in a radius, in a zone, and whole different things. And in this case, we will use the around lat.ng via IP. So we'll locate the user depending on the IP. If you prefer, if you're on a mobile device or something, you can also send the coordinate you have, or like make a field so the user can enter his location. And by adding this, Algolia will locate the user and return the result that are the closest. So I did it in Algolia. So in this case, by default, you get all the results. You're located and you get everything that is the closest. Thank you. Any question? Yes. About what? Highlight? Yes. I hope there is no typo.
Repeat the question.
This one? So in this case, you need to pass it an attribute name, and you also need to pass it the result again. It doesn't know about the home, you have to pass it. And it's called result. Yeah, I skipped this part. Because it's independent from the other component, so they don't know about each other, you have to pass it. Yes, home is basically exactly this. So in home, you can ask for object ID, city, address, country. Yes, because before it's sent exactly in this form, Algolia will enrich your results with different things, like you will get the highlighted result, so it adds the HTML. It's something you can configure where here. By default, it is EM, but you can customize the tag if you prefer. And it will also add the distance, so you know how far is the result from your point. It will add little things like this, so you can access them with the component that comes with instant search. Yes.
So I missed the beginning of the presentation, so I don't know if you mentioned that. How do you index the data in Algolia? So or where do the results come from?
Yes.
Is there
Yes. So indeed, you missed
open
it.
data or
I'll go back and show you. It's basically all the data in your database, and in your model, you add the searchable threat, which is here. So you add searchable threat, and then Laravel Scout will take care of indexing it, everything. Every time you call the eloquent method, only works with eloquent. It doesn't work if you do SQL. If you save or update or delete, it will synchronize Algolia. And at first, you need to batch import everything that already exists in your database.
okay, so this is really embedded with the Laravel's model of storing data.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's the whole Laravel Scout package that will do everything, and it's connected to Eloquent.
Okay. And if so, in this context, if you want to use the same API, I mean client API, like the React library, but plug it on a different backend, is this possible, or you have to, I mean, to be in the Laravel
No, everything is
ecosystem?
independent. This Laravel Scout is for Laravel, but we also have something for Symfony or just the client, and you use and write your code yourself. to handle the synchronization. And then the front end, if you use the React version instead of the Vue version, I don't know how it works, but it will work without any problem. It's not tied at all. The backend and front end are very separate.
Okay, thank you.
Who was it? Okay. So 2 more questions. Can you catch it?
Hi. I was wondering, is there any way to actually handle the authentication between client and Algolia directly? I mean, not with the server, like you said, like client to Algolia directly, not client to server to Algolia to server to client.
Yes. Do you want to use it with your server?
No, I was wondering about authentication. Because, yeah, is there any way to authenticate the user?
To know who's querying?
Yes.
I think in this case, you will have to pass a different token to each client. You can store it in anywhere. You can
generate tokens for each client?
Yes,
okay.
Through the API you can do it, and you can also restrict the data they can access. For example, if you have everything in the same index, you can restrict what they can see or not.
Okay.
And then you store it in your JavaScript and you use the correct one.
All right.
There's also one thing that you can do instead of having an hard-coded API key. You can have actually what we call secured API key, which can be generated per user. And with the secured API key, you can even restrict the search to target only a subset of an Algolia index. Meaning that if you have a multi-tenant database and every single of your customers has their own data, they only need to search into that data. So you can actually have a secured API key per customer, and you fetch it from your backend at rendering time or whatever. And using that API key that is only for one single user, they will have a restricted search.
If it's okay, I have a question too. With Scout, you can search on only one model, right? Because if I have an application with a lot of users and each user has his address and lot of field and lot of it's related with a lot of models. How can I handle that? Just in the search array and call all the model and send it to Algolia?
So if it's really complex, you will use the API client and do it yourself. But usually if it's like a user and the address that is in a separate model and separate table, with the two searchable array, you'll just load the dependencies in the relationships and store everything in one record.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question.
That's usually the best way. Okay, it's over. You can ask me after.
Just a question. Are you using Elasticsearch behind this, or is it your own grown?
Good question.
Sorry.
So the whole Algolia engine is written from scratch in C++, and there is no. It's all custom, all made by Algolia. No Elasticsearch.